Everybody to our regular council meeting for Monday, July 7th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have all members of council in attendance this evening. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Looking for a mover and a seconder to adopt the regular council meeting for Monday, July 7th, and we're going to have it as amended with a matter of new business under section 16, as discussed with the clerk and the deputy mayor and CAO. So looking for a mover and a seconder of that. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting of June 16th. Needing a mover and a seconder that we adopt the minutes as circulated. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Moving on to 8, we have public presentations tonight. We have a delegation by Julius Lampeter, a resident, and he wants to discuss the upgrading of the Harrow Lagoons to a mechanical plant. So welcome, sir. Just go back to the delegation and push the button and you get 5 minutes to address council. Just back there.
Mayor, thank you very much for taking me to present you a problem that's been existing for a long time. My name is Julius Lampeter. I live on 30/65 Concession 3 over in Harrow, and lived for 30-some years. And it starts with point 1. Cedar Creek is a beautiful little creek, natural waterway, flows into Lake Erie. It's a natural drainage system for more than just one creek. 1988, I built a log house, 3 happy kids, playing in the creek, catching frogs, crayfish, beautiful shells. See coho salmon come up in the spring. That changed. 1990, July 24th. Happiness ends with Harrow Co-op fire. International news, by the way. There's paperwork here that proves it. That fire was all over the world. 3,000 people were evacuated. Firefighters distinguished place. 3,000 evacuated. Press reader reports, chemical fire Harrow Co-op destroys fertilizer and chemical and drains into waterways. Wastewater had to be disposed as toxic waste. All in the papers. Not true. Was not disposed of. Backhoe appeared miraculously, dug the trench around any kind of silo, and guess what happened? Don't forget, the Richmond drain drains straight into Cedar Creek. So now, this creek is poisoned. I was there. Have you ever seen fish jumping out of the water to get away from it? 11 kilometers down, which means practically in Lake Erie, down close to Lake Erie, they still found the dead fish from that fire. It keeps on going. On July 19th, this is all about Cedar Creek. It all goes one way. On July 19th, 20th, 1989, the greatest rainstorm east of the Rockies flooded Harrow and again sent all the sewage down the creek. I was evacuating my house. I lived that high up and the water was coming down. It's a natural watershed. So every time this happens, it gets killed more and more. So in October 2022, we're jumping a few years now, I took the liberty of taking samples out of the creek. Started at Richmond Drain, below the lagoons. Then at Concession 5 at the bridge, where everybody always dumps their garbage out. If you people know that spot, there's a 90-degree corner over it. So those are 3 samples taken. I snuck into Leamington Board of Health and I got the samples tested. Guess what? There's letters right there. Each one tested the same. Just below the lagoons, bacteria found in the environment plus coliform and E. coli. That's the same on a 5th and same behind my house. That's where all my samples were taken. And you know, it keeps on going, right? You all know about August 23rd, 25th, 2023, the flooding event. And I was able to get their paperwork, their help. And we had an 800% increase out of the Harrow Lagoon overflow. Colchester, 1,400% increase. Essex, 900% increase. Anyone who wants to know the efficiency of sewage lagoons, better look on a computer. And you find the efficiency is minimal because everybody steps on overflow and it'll drain onto the land.
Pause you there for 1 second, please. Council, I'm looking to see if there's an appetite to give our delegate more time. Councilor Verbeek, how many more minutes? Okay, typically we go 5. Okay, supported by Councilor Allard. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, you have 5 more minutes.
So I'm looking at it from a viewpoint maybe not so objective. We're looking at Harrow building more new subdivisions where you look. They're growing, therefore more sewage flowing into lagoons and it keeps on going. And by the way, I brought all these things up before. There's newspaper articles in there if you want. Do any of these, call it contractors that built these new subdivisions, contribute any for us to improve and at least help our sewage systems? Stop the poisoning, stop the toxic, stop this madness. I sometimes go in my creek with rubber boots and I start digging, cleaning up it when there was some flooding and stuff like that and dams and stuff, cut it apart. And every time I lift that stuff up, get that toxic smell in my lungs out of the stuff that's in that creek where the water flows through. So we gotta stop it at the top. It's the only way I can see that it's gonna go. And I'm not blaming a council, I'm not blaming it needs to be addressed. And I do not know how we could go and get money, get something to go and make these sewage lagoons efficient or make an actual sewage treatment plant that truly cleans the water. We can't keep living on this.
Push the button off. Yep, thank you. Counselor Hammond.
Do you mind going back to the?
Yeah, we're going to ask you questions now, so, okay.
No problem. You say they've been there 30 years and you've been conducting tests and everything. Did you do any tests when you first got there 30 years ago? Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. Those lagoons were put there to help clean up the Richmond, because prior to that, our sewage was going pretty much directly into it. Yeah, we don't have the best system in Harrow right now, but we are working on improving it, as well as improving our residency. So I appreciate your concerns with, but it is something that we are concerned about and working on. But with every development that comes to Harrow. And yes, we know the Richmond takes care of all our water, but it was a lot worse prior to those lagoons going in. And we will make every effort to make sure that we try and improve our lagoon system and get the proper facilities in there. But that takes time and money, and we're working on trying to get that as well. But thank you for your presentation.
I have Counselor Verbeek and then Deputy Mayor Shepley. So just stay there. We have more.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I want to first thank you for coming before us tonight. I want to thank you. It's very clear, I noticed in your delegation request, that you've been attempting to address concerns for our environment and our waterways for a great number of years. And we need more people that are willing to step up and be loud about this. I'm not sure, I get that you may be in your presentation trying to point it back at one or two causes, but just that you're willing to speak up and champion for this. We can't speak enough about protecting our waterways, and all our ditches and all our creeks and all our drains run into our lakes, and our Great Lakes are telling us that we're harming them. And what we're doing is creating serious issues with them. So we need more people like you to continue to try and sound those alarm bells. And I want to thank you for that.
Do you want to respond?
I don't know if you ever go down on a weekend down on Cedar Creek on the Undertown line. It is just filled, that little parking lot. There are people fishing below the bridge and from the bridge and from that dock. There are paddleboarders, canoeists, kayaks, you name it. And they're going upstream as far as they can. The creek is blocked. And funny, you know where it's blocked? Where our so-called new provincial park was planned to go, which lately became very quiet. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's just off the Undertown line, you go into the third concession. There's like native land restored, pretty good job on replanting, et cetera, but there are people in there, and I watch them, and they're pulling fish out, these small little whatever, and I see the little boys and all of that happy, and I imagine mom's gonna cook it for them. Don't forget, this creek is down below life, and all these things that are in that creek are going on these people. And the people don't know. They're standing up paddleboard, gladly splashing each other and having a good time. I paddled my canoe up. The blockage is there from the Emerald Ash Borer, so therefore you can't go very far past the old railroad bridge. But it's a fun place to be, and that little parking lot is always full. So people are using
Deputy
Creek.
Mayor Shepley has a comment.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for your report and your advocacy for the environment. One of the things that to touch on a little bit of what Councilor Hammond was saying. Growing up as a young man, I remember the septic systems that were put in, and just outside of blaming just the sewer control plant in Harrow, the weeping beds were tiled, and then they always would put a cheater pipe in. I'm sure you would remember that being discussed. Those cheater pipes went directly to the ditch to help the systems work faster. Those things, as we've improved and new houses are going up, additions, we're addressing those things, and they're being improved to better systems today. To put in a new sewer, a mechanical treatment plant such as what you want, I think the last time we looked at it was close to $42 million. I mean, and we would love to have one in McGregor. We'd love to have one in Harrow. We'd love to have one in Colchester, but that's $130 million. So that's a lot of money to ask our small tax base to cough up to cover these things. So we continue to improve where we can with the money we have and do a better job. But it's great that you keep keeping us mindful of those things that are going on, and appreciate the report. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Again, echo the thank you for coming out and helping keep us aware of this. And the echo Councilor Verbeek that we need more people like that are willing to stand up and say something. The Deputy Mayor brought up a really good point that the cost of these plants is pretty prohibitive. And we did look at trying to do one, and the cost that would be borne for each people that are just using it is I think quite outside what most people could afford now. That being said, we do need more people that are willing to stand up and bring this to our attention so that we could properly advocate to our provincial and federal governments that if they want to have more people build and intensify areas, that we do have to get rid of these lagoons and we do have to go to these mechanical plants, and they need to help us do that, that we can't rely solely on people. I heard your question about the developers and the development charges on being paid for this. I'm wondering if our Director of Development Services, our Director of Infrastructure, might be able to answer that question a little bit for you.
Through the chair, yeah. So development charges are applicable for sanitary sewer works as well. So anything growth related that would be for a sewage treatment plant or any capital expenses related to growth for those systems are contributed through development charges.
Listening to me. The problem is there any way to get money, whether it's provincial or, and now let's go a little bit in a different direction. When you announced the first the council meeting about our additional I'm sorry. About the traditional territory. You do realize that down on Cedar Creek, when you go past the Arnold Town line towards the lake, oh yeah, I'm on. There is actually some mound in there that apparently at the retreat of Native people, Tecumseh and everybody, there was a little settlement established for just a little while. Now,
Okay.
is there a way to go and approach it from that angle, that it's traditional lands?
Julius, we'll have to, tonight, the delegation was on the Harrow Sewage Treatment Lagoons, and we do have other matters on our agenda, so we'll have to keep it to just that. You did raise a lot of valid points, and we do have people in this room that are thinking about water quality all the time, and later on in the agenda, we're actually going to talk a little bit more about water quality. Is there any other member of council that wishes to speak on anything the delegate has brought forward? Okay, just turn off your mic there, sir, and Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. I just wanted the delegate to know that there are government grants for sewage treatment plants, and this council has applied for them in the past. But the commitment that it takes from tax dollars, even with the grant, far exceeds anything that we currently have. So it's not that we aren't looking at it. We are trying to find a way to fund it. We do charge development fees when a new subdivision is going up, and that helps go towards sanitation and water treatment, but it just, the cost of it is just enormous. So we are all aware that there is issues. We would love to put one in, like other counselors have said, and we do look for that funding, those government grants and that funding. It's just, even after that government funding, the cost is just too much, that we don't have enough funds. We don't have enough tax dollar bases. So we have a really great administration who keeps looking for different ways that we can get it done. And as soon as they come up with a way that we can afford, we will do it. If we get a really good development that happens down there and that developer says, you know what, I'll fund half of it and we get a government grant for the other half, boom, there you go. It's just coming up with the right formula, and we just haven't had it yet. So we are looking, and our administration is constantly looking to help that, because all of us here are very, I wouldn't say very environmentally friendly, but we are all looking out for the environment, and we all want what's best for Essex and our watershed. So we are looking at it.
McGuire, please. And also, previous to today, I sent you the most recent report that we asked for on the sewage lagoons. And it speaks to some of the infrastructure works that need to be done there. So we're very mindful of it. We want to have good water quality as well. At this time, I will look for a motion to receive the delegation. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councilor Hammond. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that's carried. You're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Capital Works and Asset Management, Walnut Street reconstruction. We will go to Director Gerard.
Thank you, through the chair. As previously presented, council was provided options for Walnut Street reconstruction due to the question of parking and funding. Given the recent questions of parking as part of Walnut, administration wanted to gather council's opinion on the future reconstruction of Walnut Street. Although council is being consulted on the design today, this does not mean that it will be the practice for all projects. In fact, not every road is the same. Each project is evaluated during engineering design to assess the options for each roadway. That considers the current infrastructure location, depth, and condition, the location of third-party utilities such as hydro, gas, and telecommunications, pedestrian needs, and many other details. For these reasons, council is not setting any type of standard for the roads in any of our urban centers by the decision on Walnut Street. Should council continue to have differing opinions from the public, I would remind you that administration has recommended option 1. This recommendation was based on multiple factors. First, it gets the current road completed without substantial changes to the current design. Secondly, it adds a shoulder to provide for parking without damaging boulevard grass. So a good example of that is in Essex Center, we have multiple roads where the grass comes right up to the roadway. People park on the boulevards and it creates wheel ruts and damage that the town often has to fix. Third, it provides a shoulder to avoid that damage, but during winter control operations. So when we have grass right up to the road, there's a tendency when everything is snow covered it's difficult to find the edge of the road for the snow plows. So it does happen where we might snow plow the grass and burn the grass and have to fix it when the springtime comes. So that does avoid it as well. And lastly, option 1 is a replacement project. So that would allow us to access AMP monies to fund all or most of the project. Whereas the other options are considered upgrades. And those upgrades only allow us to use 50% of AMP monies, and the other 50% has to come from other sources. In previous years for similar projects, we've applied multi-year annual grant funding. So we've used our previous gas tax, like our CCBF and different annual funding that we get from the province and the federal government to complete those projects, and we kind of save it up over multiple years. But that's not always possible depending on the priorities of council. So this does have the potential to impact taxation in that project year. So that is something that you want to keep in mind for those upgrade projects as well. And this is something that we have considered as part of our 5-year capital plan. So when we put our 5-year capital plan together, we did note that in order to get that project done in that time frame, the best possible way was to do it as a replacement project. Not to say that it couldn't be done as an upgrade. We would work with our finance team to try and make sure we're saving those dollars to get it done in the time that we've allotted. But as you know, the capital plan can change and things priorities shift year after year. We have an election coming up. So there's a lot of different things that could impact this decision making. Regardless, we are prepared to complete any of the provided options that we've identified in the report. However, we do still believe that option 1 does provide the best value for completing it within the timeline of our 5-year capital plan. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, before I open it up to council, I will start by saying I did have a site meeting yesterday with residents on Walnut Street. Many on council knew about it. The ward councillor, Rodney Hammond, couldn't be there. He got called into work. But I did have 23 residents in attendance. Good showing, almost everybody from the street. There's not that many homes on the street, so 23 is really good. A few from Murdoch as well. And the consensus from the group was that they were in favor of option 1 as well. The one concern that they had with option 1 was that it had 2.6 meters of gravel in front of Walnut Street South homes, and they didn't see the need for all of that gravel. They thought, maybe like a meter or even a couple feet would be more adequate, because they didn't really want to encourage parking. There really isn't a need for parking on that part of Walnut. So there's Walnut Street South, which is what we're talking about, but there's also, it's all kind of broken into the north part of the south and the south part of the south, and they're kind of different. So we talked for about a half an hour in the heat. It was really hot, and they had questions. Everybody wants the sidewalk to stay on the same side where the park is. The one question was, why aren't we doing the sanitary if we're ripping up the road? So maybe Kevin can answer that. Are we doing curb and gutters on Murdoch? Are we going all the way down Walnut? Are we moving any hydro poles? And then they came up with an option 4, which is what they're calling it, option 4. We can call it option 1 modified. So Kevin, I think the one question would be, I think it would be helpful to answer publicly why we're not doing the sanitary at the same time.
Through the chair. So when we complete a project, we review all of the infrastructure from a life cycle perspective and from a condition perspective. So in this circumstance, the sewer was put in the 80s. So it's only about, let's say, 40 to 45 years old. And the life cycle of sanitary sewer that's PVC like that would be about 85 years. So the sewer would actually outlive the life of the road. So by the time we have to redo the road, at that time, we'll likely have to redo sanitary sewer. And the same goes for the storm sewer. We did some reviews of the storm sewer as well, and there's quite a bit of the sewer that doesn't need to be replaced. So, and that's from us actually sending a CCTV camera down the sewer, and we actually inspect the inside of the sewer for the entire run. And we also do engineering design to check for stormwater management. So we've identified quite a bit of cost savings there from an underground infrastructure perspective. The water main certainly still needs to be replaced, and it will be included as part of the design. But anything that will be left in the ground would outlive the life cycle of that road.
Council were to go with option 1, would there be a way that we could have less than the 2.6 meters of gravel?
Through the chair, yeah, we can. I would recommend that under any circumstance, like I mentioned, to avoid damage from snow plowing operations and just for the general stability of the road, that you leave at least a foot, like 1 foot of gravel on either side of the road. The other thing that I would mention also is that if council is making this decision to go to a reduced shoulder, we will end up, there's no parking restriction currently, so people will still be permitted to park there. It will be on the grass. It will cause rutting, will get wet. So you need to be mindful of that situation as well. Council has the option to, let's say, do option 1 modified with a 1 foot granular shoulder on each side of the road, leave the situation the way it is, and then you also have the ability to create a parking restriction in the future if you don't like, or you see, or the people are complaining that there's wheel ruts or things like that too. So there are some options, but you can certainly go with that modified route.
Well, Counselor Garen.
Mr. Mayor. So we're originally, we've got administration saying they recommend option one. We have the mayor meeting with residents, majority of them saying they want option one. But originally we were presented three options. Why are we presented three options if that's what the kind of end all be all is going to be is one anyways? I'm a little confused. I'm sure if we, probably not, maybe not a comparable situation, but Irwin was just done. Up here was curbs and down the other way, closer to Fairview was exactly what Walnut has. We put curb all the way in because that's our standard. I'm just confused why we're doing standards in one ward. And another ward, we're given three options, but administration is recommending one and our residents want one. I'm just understand why we keep going around the rosy here with this.
Counselor Hammond, you want to speak to it? Counselor McGuire Blaze?
Thanks through the chair. I agree with Counselor Garen. I don't know why we're even considering option one, to be quite frank. It's not our standard. If we created a standard, we created the standard for a reason, not if. We did. We created it for a reason. Why aren't we following it? I really, really, really want an answer to that. So through the chair, sorry. Why aren't we following our standard here?
So like I mentioned in my opening statement, not every road can be completed equally, right? So let's just say, I'm going to use the storm sewer as an example, just because it's the easiest one to explain. But the storm sewer goes in the middle of the road. It's only, you need a certain amount of cover, so a certain amount of granular over top of that pipe before you can build. So if we don't have that depth on that sewer, for instance, and that's just the storm sewer, but also telecommunications, hydro, everything that crosses the road or goes under the road, you won't be able to fit it because cross section with curb and gutters needs to be lower than the rest of lower than a rural cross section. So it's actually, the road is actually slightly lower in an urban cross section than a rural cross section. So each road again is created and designed differently. In the circumstance here, this project for Walnut, there's a couple of reasons why we brought this. One was because we've had a lot of discussions about parking on Walnut Street. And we have to make a decision on what we want to allow on Walnut Street for us to complete this detailed design. So we haven't made that decision on parking. If we're going to allow parking on Walnut, we had decided that we were going to address it during the parking bylaw review. However, if council wants to continue to move forward with this project, the timelines are kind of conflicting. So frankly, I myself and my team need to know, are we allowing parking and what design do we want to proceed with? The other is about funding and timing. So like I mentioned today, the funding model is different depending on which road you want to go with. If we stay with the current cross section, which is option one, then we can fund this mostly or all by asset management. If we decide to go with an upgrade, so creating a curb and gutter situation, that can only be funded 50% from that upgrade. And the other 50% would either need to come from other revenues like grants, taxation, or different things like that. So it just changes the funding model and the priorities and the timing potentially, depending on what that funding model looks like when we're ready to do construction.
So what I hear from you is it depends on the road, but in this situation, we can do our standard. So why were we given the first option? That didn't answer my question. I understand that some roads we can't, but this road we can. So why isn't it just the standard?
You're the chair again. It comes down to timing. It comes down to timing and the funding. So if you want to complete the road quicker and cheaper and guarantee that we can get it done using asset management, then you want to go with option one. If you want to take the risk and say, okay, well, we'll be able to save up that money or we'll figure out what we're going to do as a council to find the other 50%, because between administration and council, we're going to have to find that 50% of dollars, which if right now that road is over $2 million to find, we need to come up with $1 million, right? So that's the dilemma that we're in at the moment. Whereas if we fund this by asset management, we already know that we're funding several $1 million from asset management. We can prioritize with asset management that funding towards this project.
What you're saying is, as long as it's cheaper and faster, we won't stay with standard. Like, so it's cheaper and it's faster, so let's not do the standard that we've created, that past councils, I just don't, that doesn't make any sense to me. It feels like it's taking a step backwards. That's my opinion.
Hammond, and then I will go to counselors that haven't spoke once.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So initially, I was feeling that we should pick one of the other options that did the same as the road back here, because I didn't want Harold to feel like, hey, we weren't looking after you the way we are. Ward 1, there was all of that I went and had a meeting with Director Gerard, and he explained the funding process, explained it all to me, and that's why I was in support of option 1 in the beginning. I still support option 1 today. I think the residents coming out and voicing their opinions still puts me back at option 1, even with a modified. If you're going to modify it, though, I don't think a 1 foot gravel is enough. Maybe as much as a meter. I'm fully supportive of it. And I understand what you're saying about the funding sources. It makes perfect sense to me. I'm on board. So I'm all for option 1 or option 1 modified.
Hammond, then Councillor Verbeek.
The question is for Councillor McGuire Blaze, regarding the standard that she keeps referring to. What standard is this, and how does it reflect the standard roadways in Harrow?
Through the chair, our town standard, the roads, cities, maybe I don't have the definition in front of me, but maybe Director Gerard can give you a definition of our town standard.
The chair. So our development standards manual, which can be found on our website, is what dictates the standard. There are various standards within that development manual. So we have an urban standard, a semi-urban standard, and a rural standard. So they are various different styles depending on the development, the area, and the feasibility. But generally those are found in the development standards manual.
Sure.
I think it's important to note that development standards manual is for new developments. So it's not necessarily for all existing developments when we do a reconstruction or a replacement road. It is when a new development comes up, that is what the standard is going to be. And like Director Gerard had said, we strive to do that wherever we possibly can. But there are going to be decisions that we have to make as council and administration as to the timing of it. And in this situation, because there was issues with a business on that street and the parking currently, we felt it was important to get resident input onto it. So that was what it came down to.
Thanks for that, because when it comes to Harrow, the majority of Harrow is built up like Walnut Street is now, because it is an old section of Harrow. If we're going to start bringing things up to standard, then we need the entire town of Harrow involved to redo the entire town of Harrow. As CAO has pointed out, that we're not trying to redo the whole town of Harrow, we're just trying to get a new road put on. So it's up to council's decision whether we're going to change the standard of Harrow or just put a new road in for Walnut Street.
If other members of council that haven't spoke, okay, Councilor Verbeek, Councilor Allard, Councilor Mady, then we'll go back to Councilor Guerin. Then we'll squeak in.
Actually, I don't have a question anymore, but I guess I'll just state that, like the deputy mayor said, I'm in support of this of option 1 for so many reasons. But for me, like we're looking at huge significant, like the cost using the asset management. This is going to put a less burden on the taxpayers in the near future to pick option one, from what I understand. Is this correct, Director? So that and the fact that the residents are happy with option one, and the fact that it clearly meets the standards for that area. If it was a brand new development, I could see us looking at all the curbs and other things. So at that time, I will support it as well.
Allard?
I liked like option one and option two, but with the development that the Director Gerard had mentioned about the funding, I gotta lean towards council or towards number one, just like my fellow councilors beside me here. I don't know why we were offered three. We should have just went with one and stuck with it and been done with it already.
Have Youth Member Foster.
I think when we were first presented these, that to me in my head it was one or three, and depending on what we wanted, what we envisioned our towns as. And I think what I'm hearing is that when we use the term 4 urban centers, maybe there isn't 4 urban centers. Maybe we have 1 urban center and we have 1 semi-urban and we have a rural area. And trying to say that we have to have Harrow built up as an urban center, maybe Harrow doesn't want to be a Harrow urban center, and maybe we should have that conversation as we're going through our plans and stuff. So listening to the ward rep and our mayor, option one definitely becomes the winner. But I would say to Councillor McGuire Blaze and Councillor Guerin that yeah, we're not going to our urban standard. We're using a different standard for Harrow, and then maybe we should define that standard.
Youth Member Foster.
Both me and Lauren would like to voice our support for option one. It just seems pretty simple to us that if the people and administration and the resources suggest option one, that option one seems like the obvious choice here.
Councillor Guerin, this is your second comment.
Comments. Through the chair. Councillor Beatty makes a whole bunch of sense. Listen, option one is going to be the best for any time we do a road. It's the cheapest. It's the cheapest. We could have did Irwin for a lot cheaper if we just went with option one. We developed the standards, development standards policy, and it was not only for Essex Center, it was for all of Essex. It was not just for new development. It was when we look at a new road and doing a new road, we were going to do it to up to. That's what the standards is there for. Now you're asking council to pick and choose what road we want to do to save some money for the taxpayers. I can do us all a favor right now and just do all the roads like number one in all of Essex Center and all of Harrow, and we'll be great. We'll get the funding that we want to get them done quicker, and we could throw the standard for that out the window. That's all where I'm at with. I'm just trying to figure out why we're presented with 3 options. If it's just as easy, because I was told, I'm pretty positive the first meeting this came up, Mr. Macbeth said all 3 options fit within the budget. That's what we were told. We weren't saying that 3 was more money and we can't afford it. It was saying that these are the 3 options. Which one of these options sounds to me like option 3 is the closest to our standard than 1 and 2 is. I don't really care if Walnut all wants 1, I'm okay with it. I'm just going back to, we're gonna have another road gonna come up and we're gonna have residents saying, we just want 1. Those people at the end didn't want curbs. They never had them before. They don't want them now, but they got them. So I just don't understand. That's where I'm at. And I don't recall Councillor Hammond missing any meeting on this. And if I did miss a meeting on it, tell me which one it was, because I know what's going on with Walnut. I didn't miss a meeting. When I asked my question, I didn't really care for that comment. Walnut, if you want to do it in 1, we can vote on 1. Next road, we'll be doing the same thing.
Karen, I believe that we've discussed this 3 times at council, and I believe the middle time was when you were away. I believe. Yeah. Oh, you can. Oh, yeah, but we had a vote, and it was a 3-4 vote at that meeting. Okay. I have Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Mayor, just one final comment from me, and I meant to say it the first time and I didn't get, it kind of got lost in the discussion of what I was saying. There is the urban center, which, I mean, Essex is more urban than Harrow. It's the fact. I hate to say it, it's a fact. Harrow would be semi-urban. If we were doing the road down, I can't think of the road name, down by the Legion, of course, we'd want gutters and curbs there. That's leading to the arena. It's leading to businesses, everything else. This road, Irwin, leads from one end of business to the other behind our town hall. It's a pretty significant road in the town, even though it's a back road. It's different than this road. This road, yes, for a portion leads along some businesses. Then it leads to the county, out to the countryside. So that's why I'm in favor of, I was good with any of the options, but again, after talking to Director Gerard and hearing what the residents say, that's why I'm okay with option one. I think as development changes, when this road comes up again, if there's more going down that road that requires the curb and gutters, then we look at that at that time. That's why I'm okay. Different roads, different centers leading to different areas, and that's option one works for me, and that's why. Thanks.
To you, Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing up McCaffrey Street, because it is one of our most recent redone streets, and it has curbs and gutters on half of it, and then shoulder on the other half down by the park. It's another prime example of two different streetscapes on one street. Thank you, Deputy.
Okay, at this time, I'm seeking direction from council. I'm looking to council to make a motion. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
I'm gonna support option one, amended to a 1 meter shoulder on would be the south side, what you had talked about, east side.
A motion to go with an option one modified, supported by Councillor Hammond. If you so desire, you get a comment to the motion. One comment. I will start off just saying, I think we look at each road on the merits of that road. We don't look at the road in terms of, is it in Essex Center or is it in Harrow? I think we look at the merits of the road, the neighborhood of the road, and what's important to me more than probably anything is public consultation of the people that live on that road. And I feel like I'm happy with council that we had time to defer, because I feel like I got my chance to do public consultation. So I would not want to vote on something that the residents of the road are not in pretty unanimous support on. Okay, Councillor,
Madam Mayor,
yep, go ahead.
can we have a recorded vote when we vote on this, please?
Sure. Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. I would just like to say to administration that going forward, I would like 3 options on every road. Because I know for Irwin, I would have liked to have option one, because I can't tell you how many emails I got having to put a curb in there and being told that that was the only option because that was our standard. So I think I agree with Councillor Guerin. Why have a standard if we don't stick with it? And let's see option one for every road. But I will go with what the residents want. I agree. I will vote that way, but going forward, let's see 3 options for every road.
I agree. I'm going to support option one because the ward rep and the mayor went and spoke with them and were being presented with the options. I'm really voicing my displeasure in having a standard, and to me, it just doesn't feel right. Wellington one day, it has the same type of road, and it's got another road, St. James, has curbs. When we redo that road, I'm going to guarantee you we're putting curbs in there, even though they've had it for years and years and years. So that's my only point of this whole thing. But I will go with council on this one.
Mady, last comment.
Chair, no, a question. Because we're gonna go with the amended amount of shoulder there, and there's some concern about rutting and stuff. Does going with this amended version put us in any extra liability or any chance for anybody to get hurt by having the rutting and stuff like that? Should it be the proper width?
Through the chair, I wouldn't say that there's any safety or liability concerns. What I would suggest is just that people will continue to park in that grass boulevard. They will create ruts. Could somebody trip in there? Yes, but when we do try to do our best to repair those when we get notified of that, but there is an operational cost to that. But again, if that's what council desires, I don't have any concern with a 1 meter shoulder.
Going to ask the clerk to call the question.
Andy, through you. Deputy Mayor Shepley has requested a recorded vote. Deputy Mayor Shepley, how do you vote? Deputy Mayor Shepley votes in favor. Councilor Verbeek, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay. Councilor
Support.
Verbeek supports. Councilor Allard, how do you vote? Councilor Allard supports. Councilor McGuire Blaze, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor McGuire Blaze supports. Councilor Guerin, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Guerin supports. Councilor Hammond, how do you vote?
Support?
Councilor Hammond supports. Councilor Meady, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Meady supports. Mayor Bondi, how do you vote? Mayor Bondi supports, so the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to community services, special event notice, Essex Center, BIA, Tiny Tot Parade. Needing a mover and a seconder that the community services report be received and that council approve closing Talbot Street North from Laird to Victoria on October 31st between 9:45 and 11:30 a.m. for the Essex Center Tiny Tot Parade. Needing a mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Planning 2512, assumption of phases 1 and 5 of Essex Town Center. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the planning report be received and that bylaw 2458 be read first, second, and third time, finally passed on July 7th. And we have Director Chadwick here if anybody has any questions. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? Councillor Hammond.
Yes, through you, Mayor, and thank you. Regarding the retainment pond, is it not part of phase 5, the original plans for the retainment pond? Who would I ask that to?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The stormwater management pond is a part of phase 5 or phase 1 actually, but as not being assumed as a part of this approval.
So at what time does this retainment pond become a priority during this development?
Through the chair. So the pond itself has been, the one that's been placed there now is designed for phases 1 through 5. So phases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's been completed out in the field is phases 1 and 5. So there are future phases that still have to outlet into that pond. Then the pond will need to be expanded again when other phases come online. So the pond lands are still needing improvement in the future. And in addition, we are still dealing with the developer on the contaminated soil issue. So we would like to keep that in the developer's name for the time being until a resolution comes of that.
So I take it we're maintaining that. We're retaining enough money to ensure that process is completed then, I take it.
The chair, so the securities are being released for phases 1 and 5. Future phases will require additional security to be posted with the town. So there are, for instance, there is conditional approval on phases 2, 3, and 4. When the developer is ready to build those phases, they will need to post securities for those phases to be completed.
Any other questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Community services, our CERT update, our special events resource team for July, looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received for information for council. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Meady. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Parks and facilities, supply and installation of a generator at the Harrow Arena. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received and that council award the supply and installation of the generator at the Harrow and Colchester South Community Center to Anchor Hydro in the amount of $146,784.73. And that council received for information that the town of Essex was awarded grant funding from the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities in the amount of $97,300 for this project. Looking for a mover and a seconder, and then our director will speak to it. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Allard, and we'll go to Director Morissette.
Thank you, Mayor Bundy. So just for clarification on this project does include the generator and the air conditioning that would be going in the upstairs community. So that does include both portions of the project. And it was 60% funded from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the purpose of it eventually being an evacuation shelter for the community.
Sounds like a great project. Do you know if they're coming down? Do they want any little ribbon cutting or any little ceremony? Do you know?
Through the mayor, I'd have to look into the grant requirements on that one upon completion. I don't believe that's the case at this point, but if it is, administration will certainly plan that.
Okay. Is it possible for us to send a letter of thanks? I don't know. If we can, I don't know. We want more money in the future, so I don't know. Any other comments? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Reports from our youth members. We'll go to youth member Lauren Smith first.
First, I'd like to thank Fun Fest Committee. It was great again this year. And then also the Fun Fest 5K happened on the Sunday. It was another great turnout, and we were able to significantly increase our donation to the food bank this year. So thank you to the community for coming out for that. And then finally, new information. I'm very pleased to announce Essex now has its very first Junior Optimist Club. So we'll be meeting frequently in the Essex Youth Center. That's who we're sponsored by. Just a community group who's coming together to put on some community projects and then raise some funds and promote youth optimism in Essex County. So thank you.
Through the chair, I'd also like to congratulate Lauren Smith on her successful campaign to become president of the Youth Junior Optimist Club. Summer camp, Clubhouse Summer Camp through Essex is off to a great start. We're all having fun there. All the counselors, it's a great vibe. The kids are having fun. There's a water safety coloring contest that has started, if any of you are interested in that. And there is Water Safety Day at Colchester Beach on July 20th. I want to see all of you there.
That's great. County Council update. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The county highlights for June 18th, 2025. First, the Windsor Essex Regional Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan is getting an update. Council received a progress report and approved sending it off to the province. Community engagement is underway and will continue through the summer, with a revised draft expected in the fall. We also approved an education plan for counselors focusing on communication, skills for leadership, and road user responsibilities, part of the community's or county's efforts to support strong public service leadership. Council adopted the updated 2025 asset management plan, which recommends gradually increasing capital spending to keep our $1.2 billion in assets like roads, libraries, and EMS and admin buildings in good shape and good condition. Right now, most of our assets are in fair or better shape, which is great news. On the financial side, in 2024, consolidated statements show that the county is in solid financial health with a $571 million in equity and over $316 million in reserves, including funds for roads and the new regional hospital. Council also approved a change to the official plan in Leamington, redesigning a property on Mercia Road 8 from a secondary settlement to agriculture. Lastly, county to promote water safety and drowning prevention week, CAO Sandra Zers confirmed in response to a question by Mayor Bondy that the County of Essex will promote water safety and raise awareness about the risk of drowning during National Drowning and Prevention Week, which runs this year from July 20th to July 26th. The CAO noted that the County of Essex was a member of the Great Lakes Water Safety Consortium and led in the Windsor and Essex County Drowning Prevention and Water Safety Coalition, which partnered with Windsor Police to host a water safety clinic last summer. She added that the Essex Windsor EMS paramedic hosted a drowning awareness session for paramedics that also drew participants from the city of Windsor and the towns of Essex, LaSalle, and Tecumseh. Thank you. That's my county council report.
Mayor Shepley, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive the Essex County Council minutes for June 4th. Moved by Counselor Hammond, Counselor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Moving on to correspondence to be received, looking for a mover that all the correspondence be received and that we will then double back and pull some items out if council desires. Moved by Counselor Hammond, supported by Counselor McGuire Blaze. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Any items of correspondence? Counselor Hammond.
Just one through you, Mayor, regarding the OPP Detachment Board minutes. I noticed there was a motion, ECODB-N, requesting reports of each municipality. I'd like our board members to support and maybe press for that, as I think it'd be a good report to have a report on individual municipalities, particularly for the parents in Harrow and Colchester who have to send their teenagers to different municipalities each and every day to get their schooling and for their sports. So I would like to see that motion go through with the OPP detachment.
Noted, Counselor Hammond. We will double back after our next OPP Police Service Board meeting. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
To receive and support the last three, 13.1.7, 13.1.8, and 13.1.9, and send a letter to our MPPs.
The Deputy Mayor is pulling out the correspondence from the Health Unit, from the Windsor Essex County Health Unit, endorsing the Windsor Food Strategy. I think we should do them one at a time. Okay. So moved by Deputy Mayor that we endorse the Windsor Essex Food Strategy. Moved by Deputy Mayor, supported by Counselor Verbeek. Questions, comments on this one correspondence? The resolution is in your agenda. I'll just briefly summarize it for folks. It's that we want to ensure that people in Essex County have dignified access to sufficient affordable food, and that we have a healthy food system, and that community partners have committed to a food system work across Windsor Essex County. It's all in our agenda, if you want to read it. All in favor? And that is carried. And second, that Windsor Essex County Health Unit correspondence, animal bite prevention strategies in Windsor Essex. So moved by the Deputy Mayor that we support the motions, whereas animal bites to humans increase the risk of rabies vaccine transmission, whereas data indicates that 92% of local animal to human bite investigations involve canine and feline, and whereas there's some more, but whereas the Windsor Essex County Health Board encourages all local municipalities to review, strengthen, and enforce existing animal bylaws, including off-leash violations. So that's moved by the Deputy Mayor, supported by Councilor Verbeek. And I'm wondering if on this particular one, Deputy Mayor, if we could perhaps reach out to the health unit on more information. I will let our clerk speak to the Director Malin-Juklo.
The Legal and Legislative Department requires that all dog owners get a dog tag annually. One of the things that we thought might be helpful is that if we reach out to the health unit and ask them for some rabies prevention materials, that we could share that with the dog tags next year. So if council supports, we're going to reach out and see if we can do that. And I will also bring that up at the Board of Health and make them aware of that as well.
This piece of correspondence. Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. The third piece of correspondence that the Deputy Mayor spoke of is the Windsor Essex County Health Unit, the avian influenza prevention and risk mitigation, moved by the Deputy Mayor, supported by Councilor Verbeek. Any questions or comments from the balance? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
just thought this was, sitting on the Board of Health, this is something we've been following quite a lot lately in lieu of what's gone on through the states. And, it particularly spoke to me about when we discussed having backyard chickens and the awareness that this will bring to some of those people that maybe have them and shouldn't have them in our municipality, that this is one of the reasons why it's not okay to just have chickens roaming everywhere, because they're not monitored. There's no checks and balances. So this is why I really felt this was an important one.
Therapy chickens exempt? No. Okay, any other questions, comments? All in, Counselor Hammond?
To Deputy Mayor, would that also include pigeon coops?
To be honest with you, Counselor Hammond, I'm not sure if they're not registered or not, but if they were registered, there would be some sort of way for the Board of Health to go in and regulate that as well. I'm not sure if they're registered though, so I can't speak to that beyond regulated.
All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Any other items of correspondence that any other members of council would wish to bring up? Okay, seeing none, moving on to our committee meeting minutes. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the committee meeting minutes be received, approved, and adopted as circulated. Art, Culture, Tourism, Essex Festival Committee, Committee of Adjustment, Essex Municipal Heritage Committee, and the Coam Park Committee. Looking for a mover and a second. Counselor Hammond, Counselor Mady, questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Nothing under financial this evening, and at this point, I would like to pass the gavel to the Deputy Mayor. And we don't have it, I know. And I would like to raise something regarding Great Lake water quality, Deputy Mayor, and I feel like it's minor because we're just raising a letter, and I feel that it's urgent because it's summer, and I'd like to find ways how to keep our beach open. Thank you. So I'm looking to see if council would support directing administration to draft a letter to be signed by the mayor on behalf of council to the health unit, asking when and why they shut down our county beaches and what measures Essex can take to avoid beach closures this summer and in the future. Just looking for a seconder.
Claire Blaze.
Thank you. It's just something I think we need to start having the conversation about. And I know we've only had one warning on our beach this summer, but I want to start, maybe it's something that we work together with IRCA, with source water protection, seeing what we can do. Is it fish flies? Is it goose droppings? Is it sanitary septic systems that are hot tapping into the lake? We work so hard to bring people down to our beach. And I know what happened last summer to my family. We rented, family from out of town rented rooms at the Grove, and we got down there and then the beach was closed. So it was really kind of kick in the gut when you can't use the beach. So just looking to start the conversation, and I figure we could start with the health unit, asking them what their methodology is and if they know how we could start to prevent it. That's all I have.
Comments? Seeing none? Oh, Counselor Mady.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is great. Thank you for bringing this up. Our water protection is kind of lacking right now. We have a kind of a disturbing, our tense relationship with our neighbors to the south that we used to be able to talk really freely about our source water and our water protection, and that hasn't been happening recently. Our scientists are no longer allowed to talk to each other, and we've noticed a couple really disturbing things like the chlorocyst being found in the Amherstburg drinking water, something that doesn't normally happen because they're in such a deep, fast-moving water. For it to come back into that water, there's definitely something happening in our watersheds that we need to be aware of. So any conversations we could start having on our watersheds are needed, and to get more eyes looking at it, to get the health unit involved, to find out if there is things that we can do to help at a municipal level. I think this is a great conversation to have. I'm really looking forward to the information we're going to get back from this.
I agree 100%. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries.
On a notices of motion. The following notice of motion was presented at the June 16, 2025 regular council meeting and is being brought forward this evening for consideration. Moved by Councilor Verbeek that council direct administration to provide council with a written update on the Essex Sports Fields project during the 2026 Town of Essex budget deliberations.
Be supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Counselor Verbeek.
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, I don't have a lot of comments because I think there's going to be wholesome discussion in a few months when we get a full report, which is what I'm requesting here. I'm just, part of what drove this motion was a concern from some people in the soccer community that there were going to be soccer players without somewhere to play. There were rumors that the Hanlon extension was going to start long before our sportsplex was done, and they were worried. And that's what drove this motion. And then it got me thinking, yeah, we do need a wholesome update and discussion on this moving forward. So I hope council will support me in requesting the report. And I will ask Director Morissette if he knows anything about the risk of our soccer players not having anywhere to play for the remainder of the year.
Through the mayor, so at this point, the Hanlon extension, I'll let Director Gerard touch base on that, but in the foreseeable future, there is nothing that would be interfering with that. We have taken steps recently, very recently. We have a water line now on the new sports complex. That was the biggest thing that we were having issues with, was getting the grass to grow. So while it's certainly starting, we do have some work to do on that, but we do have a water source out there to now allow the grass to grow without relying on Mother Nature, because that's been pretty tough to rely on lately in terms of rain. So that's one of the very near future things. So we are anticipating that it's going to be potentially a soft opening for next year, where we may have both fields in use, so that we're not just hammering down on the new complex. We want to try that to establish it as much as possible. So the longer that we can wait for that grass, even better. So we do have a lot of positivity with that going on right now. And then with the rest of it, now that we've been made aware that we didn't receive the grant that we applied for, we are working on a longer term funding model and what that plan is going to be. So that's what we will present to council around the budget time.
Appreciate that clarity. And yeah, I'm just hoping council will support having this this motion to have a full report around budget time.
Thanks through the chair. I think one of the things that has sparked the rumor are the concrete barriers that were put up next to the soccer field. Can we get an explanation? I'm not asking for for an ulterior conversation. I truly think that that's the reason why has sparked such rumors. Can we get an explanation of why the concrete barriers were put up?
Yeah, through the chair, the concrete barriers were put up because the road that is into the soccer fields between that and the school is not a public road. It's not built and maintained as a public road. It was a construction access for the Woodview subdivision. So at the request of both the school and Public Works, to limit our risk and liability from injury, and at the time there was a lot of ice on that section of road that there was concerns about students and parents slipping and falling. We made the decision to permanently block it off to limit our risk. So it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the completion of Hanlon, but purely a risk and protection of the town.
Thank you very much. And then just to clarify, because I find when we say, can we get a report, it doesn't quite give us what we're looking for. Could you clarify what exactly you're looking for in the report? Like, are you looking like a general report? Like, yep, we'll see it in 2027, or like, what are you looking for?
the report, clearly, we're not going to see everything in 2027. The report hopefully is going to lay out a timeline, more clarity on, each project so that we can look at it, because we're going to have to address this every single budget. Can we afford this piece of the project? Can we afford this piece of the project? And we're going to see what fits into the budget of the year or the appetite of the council of the day. So it would be, an outline of going forward. Clearly, when the director's department does put together this report, it's the costs are going to change year to year, but we're going to have an outline of what the plan is and, perhaps estimated costs. So when we can decide as a council, you know what, let's address this project in 2027 or this piece in 2030 without counting on grants. And then when and if we're afforded grants along the way, maybe we can speed up the process. Because I think what's happened is we were really fortunate to come this far in this project. But I think the community's got this grand picture and they just like, when is this going to happen? And it's not. It's going to happen, but it's over a great deal of time and it's going to be one piece at a time. So if we have this report to present to us and to the community that says we're working towards this, but we're not it's going to take a long time and we can choose as we go where and how to proceed.
I support your motion. I think it's important that we know we're looking for a timeline. So we're not just looking for a report like this is where we're at and we have water now. Like, we're not just looking for an update. We're looking for a timeline and we're looking for potential costs, and we want to put a canteen in there and that's going to take 10 years. Like, that's what we're looking for. We're not just looking for, well, we got to replant grass for the 5th time and we're like, that is what I was afraid we would get at the end of the thing. So thank you for clarifying.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Guerin.
Through the mayor. We got a second to run this for the discussion, or do we? Okay, so we're getting the report right now, pretty much, Councillor Veek, because we already have the plan in place. We know that the soccer fields there's a need to have them across the highway. Our capital roads project already has them scheduled the Hanlon extension to be tentatively in 2028. So that gives 2026 and 2027 soccer season. And we've already started phase 1 of the plan across the highway, which is to get the soccer fields going. I think baseball is the next part of it. And we've also got the private thing in there. So I think we can kind of get the report right now with just raising the motion, because I don't think there's going to be much more we can get out of it. I'm pretty positive if everything goes as the capital roads plan is, it looks like we've got 2 more years of soccer, so the soccer community can breathe for another 2 more years after this year, for sure.
Mayor Body, and through you to council, I think the difficulty from our end is knowing how aggressive the approach that council would want to take in terms of a yearly financial model. We could come up with a 10 to 15 year plan where we address everything at a lower cost on a yearly basis, or we could realistically come back and say we have a funding model that we might be able to do everything in a year or 2, right? So it's really, we're trying to work with finance to see what the cost would be, where we could go, depending on the different funding models. And we're going to do our best to come up with a plan that we think is reasonable and that council would appreciate. But at that time that we do present it, we will be looking for feedback on what council's opinion is in terms of how aggressive we want that funding model and what timelines we're looking at. So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to break it down in a responsible way to not have a huge impact on the taxpayer and have a longer session. But like I said, ultimately, it's going to be council's decision on how they want to spend those resources.
It's been a really good conversation, and I want to thank Councilor Verbeek for bringing this forward. I think it's key heading into budget, knowing what projects are going to cost. Also, if we're getting grief out there by anybody in the community, we can say such and such project is a 5% tax increase. Like, we can go to them because we've done a lot of feedback on budgets and people are primarily saying that they want money spent on roads. So it's hard to justify spending millions of dollars on recreation when the public feedback is primarily on roads. So it's good information to have because people assume that the town has lots of money, but when you're sitting here, we understand that there's a lot of priorities and not a lot of money. I also think having this document will show us that this tennis court or this baseball diamond is such and such amount of money. Then we can go after naming rights. I think it pairs well, and maybe we can, chunk some of these projects into naming rights and save taxpayer dollars altogether. And then we'll have specific information when we go to apply for grants, whether it's a turf field or a ball diamond or bleachers, we'll have specific things we can ask for in grants, and hopefully we'll be more successful. Okay, with that being said, I will call the question. All in favor? And that was carried unanimously. Director Malandruco.
Through you, the following notice of motion is for presentment only and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the July 21, 2025 regular council. Moved by Mayor Bondi that council direct administration to review the town's property standards bylaw and return with a report proposing any changes that administration determines is required to improve the bylaw's relevancy, effectiveness, and alignment with the community's needs, and that such review incorporates public consultation and education. The following is another notice of motion for presentment only tonight. Moved by Councillor Verbeek that council direct Town of Essex administration to seek information from the Ministry of Transportation regarding accidents at the corner of County Road 11 and Concession Road 11 and provide council with a verbal report on administration.
Malandruco. We'll go to reports and announcements from council members, and we'll start with Councillor Guerin.
The Fun Fest this past weekend, I want to thank my incredible festival committee. Everyone worked very hard. It was hot. I want to thank all the volunteers. Director Morris said his managers, town staff, all went above and beyond. Our businesses and sponsorship support was fantastic. I just really want to thank everybody who showed up and or supported the festival in one way or another. It was our 36th year, and I think overall with the heat, everything went well. Thanks.
Nothing to report.
I don't really have a lot to report, but I do want to say again, I want to echo what Councillor Guerin said. I only from a different perspective, from somebody who went and enjoyed the Fun Fest, wasn't on the committee, but I saw each and every one of you guys and how hard you guys worked as a committee. Councillor McGuire Blaze, Councillor Verbeek, and Joe, you guys put on an amazing show. It was excellent to watch from the outside looking in. Almost made me want to join the team. No, I'm kidding. It sure looks like a lot of work, but your efforts were on display 100% this weekend, and it was a fantastic job. And I spent probably too much time in the beer tent both nights, but it was jam packed with people it was wall to wall. It was so much fun to see it, and thanks for letting me on stage to throw out t-shirts to see it from that viewpoint. Again, is a different view than anybody else gets to see, and it was pretty remarkable. And thank you again, and thank you too as well, and the rest of your committee.
Nothing to report.
I too want to thank everybody that Joe or Councillor Guerin has thanked, but I also want to thank the vendors who came out, the food and non-vendors for all of our events, the Sip and Shop, the car show, and the Fun Fest. Without them, we can't make the event happen either. And then I want to thank everybody who participated in the car show too. We had almost 180 cars, and they were all fantastic, and they all deserve an award just for showing up. But it was a fantastic event. The Sip and Shop was great. The car show was great. We look forward to another year next year, and good job to everybody.
Bylaws that require a third and final reading. Bylaw 2459, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 16th, 2025 regular meeting of council. Be read third and finally passed on July 7th. Moved by Councillor Mady, Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Bylaws requiring a first and second reading. Bylaw 2460, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the July 7th regular council meeting. To be read a first, second time, and provisionally passed on July 7th. Moved by Counselor Allard, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. And our future meeting, I just want to let members of the public know that we're having a zoning bylaw amendment for 66556 concession, Monday, July 21st at 5 o'clock. That is known as the Hearns property. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Oh. Oh, go ahead. Okay. This Wednesday. Okay. Okay. You go ahead. I'm not prepared.
This Wednesday at County Council, we'll be having a joint council session with the City of Windsor and Essex County Council, updating us on where we're at with the mega hospital that's coming. So if anybody wants to attend, I believe it's open for everybody to attend.
For that, needing a motion to adjourn, moved by Deputy Mayor, supported by Counselor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried.